The story is interesting because it does obviously it seems to riff off a lot of the stuff that you've explored before in the sense of all Brendan's movies and everything else. What made you decide that you wanted to locate this in the US and more specifically in Albuquerque as well? And why do you think that works for this format?
The early versions I had a script because I had a version that was set in London, and then I did have a version that was set in Dublin. It just never felt right. I mean, if you talk about people getting guns out in a final shootout, it's an American thing. London, it always felt tacked on. You could probably get away with it in Dublin just because there's so many guns around because of the conflicts that have gone on there. But after making the Garden Cavalry, which was to me felt like westerns, I thought, why not just make a flat out contemporary western and go to the Southwest? And why we shot in New Mexico, I was initially going to do Texas. I was initially going to do Galveston because of the Glenn Campbell song. I don't think Galveston doesn't look like a very visual type town. I think
the whole thing was sort of, I mean, speaking as a Brit, obviously I don't know the US so much, but it seemed sort of indescriptive. It was only when the badges were put on the desk that I realised precisely where it was. In many ways, the sort of location felt critical on the one hand because it was a Western, but on the other hand, it felt almost incidental and could have been anywhere.
Yeah, I think in my mind, the only thing I had was one, I think, with Michael's character, that it's a Latino cop, so he's on the border somewhere. But the main thing was I was always going to have the Iceland sequence, which is chilly blue, and I wanted those kind of red desert vistas or that light as a counterpoint. So you got, the first act, all New Mexico, then Iceland, then back to New Mexico. So it was a visual thing as well. But it was more the kind of widescreen Western type element, New Mexico had great tax breaks, so that was why we went to New Mexico.
I heard you just mentioned that you'd seen Alex's YouTube stuff, which is obviously how everyone rates his. How did he pitch the movie to you? Presumably when he approached you.
I didn't pitch it.
You didn't pitch it.
You just read the script.
My agent called one day and was like, "I've read a script. I think you might," because I've been trying to find a comedy for a couple of years and haven't really found anything I respond to.
Is that to take yourself out of a comfort zone that you think that you'd sort of found yourself in?
Not so much comfort zone. I just wanted to have a good time. And I did a couple of comedies in Sweden 10, 15 years ago, but I haven't done one in a really long time. And I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to find something different and something.
I mean, I would say that I did sense some similarities between the dryness of Eric's character in True Blood and some of the dry dialogue that was going on in this movie, and I did sort of understand that comedic background. But was that something that you were deliberately trying to explore?
Well, I'd done a couple of dramas back to back. I was working on Tarzan, which is an action movie, which a very kind of dark, intense, and a character that's like the quintessential hero, kind of like it's a very heroic character. So it was very refreshing to read something that was, the diametrically opposite to Tarzan or any of the small drama indies I've done in the past couple of years. It's just, that's what gets me excited, obviously, as an actor, when you find something like that feels, new and fresh and interesting. And we didn't know each other. We didn't talk. We still don't talk.
Yes, yeah, you had. Yeah. No, that's what impressed me.
So I got my agent sent me the script and obviously knew that I was looking for a comedy and I loved it. I was from page one, these crazy cops hitting a mime, stealing his drugs. It was comedy gold, and I was a fan of John's. I had seen both his movies, and I thought they were great. And this felt like something that was right up my alley in terms of the kind of dark, satirical, weird, irreverent comedy.
And going back to what you said about Why America, I think after Calvary, which is kind of it's kind of a bleak movie. I thought it was funnier than it was. Maybe it was just me, but I deliberately wanted to react against Calvary and do something completely opposite to it.
Because the whole tone of the comedy, I think, is almost quintessentially quite British in a lot of respects. Obviously,
yeah. Michael has said, well, it wouldn't occur to me, but when Michael first saw it, he said, basically the humour is European. It's not American. And I was like, oh wow. I was like, really?
Because it took me a while to sort of get used to the American accents delivering these dry lines.
Oh, right, yeah. And because I still keep in all the literary references and all that philosophical stuff that a lot of people get pissed off about, but I don't really care. So that's all still there. So
and there were a lot of British colloquialisms in
that we took out, wasn't there? Yeah.
Like what?
There was just it was turns of phrase, references. There was a reference. Probably shouldn't say this. There's a reference to a Belgian paedophile, and Alex said, "I know who that is, but no American audience is going to know who that is." So
you knew that was a Swede, did you?
I just know a lot about pedophiles.
So we changed that. It became the Philippines. You might as well send the kid to the Philippines.
Yeah. But that's more about dialogue, isn't it, rather than the tone of the comedy? I mean,
I'm not. This is either a positive or a negative. I don't care about tone, so I don't care whether people think you've crossed the line because it was dramatic and now you've suddenly gone comic, or it was comic and now you've suddenly gone dramatic. I don't care about those rules or what you're supposed to do.
But at the same time, the morality is still there, isn't it?
Yeah, there is. I always say the film's about two good men who eventually do one good thing. But you don't want to meet these people. They're not very pleasant human beings. But they do finally do something decent. And I think it had to be there. Because I think if they're just horrible all the way through, it's too nihilistic. I mean, the film is quite nihilistic.
But it feels like that at some points. It does get, notwithstanding the fact that it's clearly a 3-act play, that you see this arc that they're going to come around to towards the end.
Yeah,
and that was also a fun challenge for myself and for Mike. To find that, to make sure that we still had the audience with us, because we have to get to a place in the end of the movie where hopefully the audience will root for us to win. So that was kind of I was really excited about that challenge, to play this crazy character that's despicable, but like you still have to make sure that the audience are on his side.
And I think they feel it more for Alex's character, because you gradually realise
I'm generally kind of a more likable guy than Michael.
You feel it for Michael's as well. Like his interaction with his children when he's wrestling and he has to answer the.
Yeah. I mean, those are nice, but a lot of people. You see, that's a funny thing. A lot of people react badly to the early scene where he's shouting at the kids and he's swearing at them, and they think that's an abusive relationship. Well, I don't know how we were all brought up, but it's not like the Brady Bunch where you need your dad to hug you every day and go, "I love you." If your dad goes out to work in a construction job at 6 a.m. in the morning, doesn't that mean he loves you? Does he have to hug you as well? So it's against all that kind of stuff. But I think like the character Alex plays, Terry, you do gradually realise there's a backstory. There is a reason why he is so screwed up. Michael has no reason why he's screwed up. He's just a screwed up character.
That's true.
I do like how you kept the British name, incidentally, for his character. Terry Monroe does not sound like it's a particularly common Albuquerque.
Terry Monroe.
And do you know the Likely Lads? I didn't realise this. This is a subconscious thing. Bob and Terry. Do you remember
No, that's right.
Do you remember the sitcom The Likely Lads?
Vaguely, yes.
Yeah. My thing was it's Tom and Jerry, Bob and Terry. And then somebody pointed out, but Terry and Bob are the two characters in the light. And I used to love the Likely Lads. It's a sitcom that was on in the 60s and 70s, but that was not in my mind at all.
In terms of ridicule, you just mentioned the racial stereotypes. Obviously, the importance of stroking broad as far as those are concerned. How important do you think it is to ridicule those stereotypes, and to make sure that people are aware that we don't have to be afraid to confront those sorts of things, and particularly the tennis scene? Yeah,
I mean, that is one of the big scenes where people go, "Oh, that's too far. You've gone too far." I always think about that. I always think that is an example of their own racism, because what they're basically saying is you can't make a joke about somebody who's Muslim. Why can't you? Well, because they're other. They're not like us, and they have no sense of humour. That's what these people are saying. When they gasp at that joke, that's what they're saying. Whereas I'm saying, no, they are like us. They do have a sense of humour, and they can take this joke. So the people who are offended by it, to me, are the racists. That was my public service announcement.
I like that very much. Well put.
And it's a shame as well, because I thought that the joke afterwards of him complaining about the shot was it, and I couldn't help but feel actually when that happened that I was gasping at what he'd done to the trousers, which I'm sure were very expensive as well. Anyway, I thought we have to wrap it up there, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn.